So, we've had a great morning, and I think one thing that I've taken from all the speakers so far is the importance of having a network and having resources to help you grow your business, your life, having a support system. I know Wendy Diamond got up here and talked about talking to everyone, being nice to everyone, and the thing that I really took away is she said, you never know who is going to be sitting next to you, right? So that is so true, and that's been a big factor in me growing my businesses, having that big network, growing a big network. So my goal here today is to help you make that easy for yourselves. Because I think a lot of people are intimidated with networking, don't like to do it, would rather be at the dentist, don't like to walk in a room with strangers, just try to avoid it any way they can. So my job here is to make you feel better about it, more comfortable, more strategic, and make it more impactful. Now, I will say you have a very high bar because we did this last year. I know some of you were here last year. And after we did the speed networking, two absolute strangers spent Thanksgiving together. So, and that was, I love hearing those kind of stories, whether it's an event like this or just, people that I connect one-on-one. I love when people come back to me and tell me what happened as a result of it, but that was probably the coolest thing that came out of last year. We literally had somebody stand up at the session and say, we connected and she had nowhere to go for Thanksgiving and we're spending Thanksgiving together, and it was awesome. So I'm really excited to see what transpires here today with our speed networking. Let me just tell you a little bit about how this is going to go. I'm going to give you some general tips, and then we're going to get everybody out of their seats and do some interactive exercises and see what kind of magic comes from it, okay? So the first thing that I want to talk about is how you can make your connections and your introductions more strategic. And the first thing you can do on that level is to make sure that you try to ask people open-ended questions. It's very, very easy for all of us, and even when I'm super tired, I start reverting to the, what do you do, right? But that's not really the best kind of question to ask somebody. Sometimes you get people who give you one-word answers, maybe someone's in transition, they don't really want to talk about what they do. It's not the best way to get people to open up. So really try your best to ask people open-ended questions that have nothing to do with work, because it's all about making that connection. Another thing to keep in mind is really try to be yourself. So I think for a lot of people, there's a idea that you have to be a certain way. Maybe you have to be more professional, or you have to give less of yourself, or you have to be less personal. And I think the best connections are the opposite. The best connections are made when you are open, when you are personal, when you do share information about yourself. So even something as simple as, when you get asked somewhere, a lot of times you go to events, somebody sees you, how are you? And especially as women, we're so ready to give that answer. I'm good, everything's fine, so nice to see you. But really think about that, when you're talking to people. It is perfectly acceptable to tell people that you don't know how you're actually doing, You know what, my day wasn't so good. At 4 o'clock, there was a bomb that went off at work, and, I was late for this event, and I'm not really in the best frame of mind right now. I'm hoping this event will make things better, It's totally fine to do that, and I think when you do things like that, it makes you more accessible, it makes you more approachable, and it makes people feel like they can be more open because you've been more open. So really try to keep that in mind as you're networking. Next tip I want to talk about is what's called conscious preparation. I didn't make up this term. It's somebody that I read about named Dr. Susan Miller. And she says to have an intention every time you enter a conversation. And I think the best way to do that, like anything else in life, is to prepare. So that can be as simple as researching the type of event you're going to, the attendee list, trying to connect with people ahead of time, all of that good stuff we hear when we're networking. But another thing that you can do as far as that is have one of the things, and I believe I probably mentioned this last year to those of you who are here, and I mention it all the time, is conversational currency. And that is a term coined by Keith Ferrazzi, who is one of my networking gurus, who wrote a book called Never Eat Alone. Conversational currency is having topics at your fingertips that are easy to discuss, that won't be off-putting to people. So that can be things like pop culture, that can be local news stories, that can be, something about what are people's favorite foods or movies, or, things that aren't going to be off-putting like politics and religion, but you have a list of topics ready, especially if you're somebody that's not an extrovert, doesn't come natural to you to network, to have these topics at your fingertips is going to make things much, much easier for you. Another thing, as far as conscious preparation, is just having facts about the area you're in or even the building you're in. So this can actually come into play for a lot of us that travel for work and have to go to conferences or maybe go to meetings elsewhere where you meet people. it's really important to try to learn something about the local flavor. Or the alternative to that is to ask advice about the local flavor or the local area. Like one of my friends who's here, Carmen, we met actually, this is a great networking story. We were at a conference in Detroit in September. We were on what they called a networking cruise, and we met, and I learned she's from Philadelphia, and here she is, and we've connected. So I think one of the things about that, never knowing who's sitting next to you, take the extra steps, make the connection, and learning about where you are, asking for suggestions about local restaurants, what to do in the area. People really love that. They want to engage. It gives people an easy way to engage with you. Another tip would be to tell stories, not facts. So what do I mean by that? We're all taught to give a 30-second pitch and to learn your 30-second pitch, and that is important because you want people to understand what you do and also how to help you. So that is a priority. However, it's much better to try to explain what it is you do, what is your why, how do you problem solve, rather than what is your position. So what's an example of that? Instead of saying, my name is Jennifer and I'm an attorney for blank room, it would be much better to say, I help people with trust and estates so that they have their life plan set and they don't have to worry about it later in life. So that people have some more idea of what you're doing than just what your position is. A lot of us run our own businesses. When you tell people I'm the CEO of Smith Klein, does that really mean anything to people? Do they really understand what you do, what you're about, how to help you? No. So keep that in mind. Anytime you can give people a story about your why and what you do and how they can help you, that's going to be more impactful. As you meet people, even if it's strangers, see ways that you can make small offers of help. I actually just saw it happen here right before the break. There was a woman up here who said, I don't know how to get reconnected with a food group, a food networking group. And somebody in the audience said, I can reconnect you. I don't know if she's still in the room, but that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. So it doesn't have to be something that takes a lot of time, or it doesn't mean that you're opening up your personal network to complete strangers. But sometimes you're at a networking event and somebody might say, I've been really struggling. Everybody tells me I need to be on Instagram or do better with my Instagram, and I don't really know how to do that. So maybe it's saying, you know what? I have a great article on tips on Instagram, and I'll send that to you, because how much time will that take you, right? And that goes back to another thing I love to talk about, the 5-minute favor of Adam Grant. So if you haven't read Adam Grant, I highly encourage it. 5-minute favor is things that you can do for people in less than 5 minutes that are of high value to them, but don't take you much time. And people are very appreciative of this. Anytime you can help people, that's a good thing. That's something that's going to build rapport and build connection. Also, really consider your listening skills. I heard more than one speaker talk about that today. When you're networking, it's less about you and more about what you can learn from the other person. So the better your listening skills are, the more questions you can ask, the more information you can find out, the better off you're going to be. Also, make sure that when you're networking, you're in the moment. So, we all have so many competing responsibilities, not only with our businesses, but just in life in general. And it's hard, it's hard to be in the moment and not be on your phone and not be worried about, who you need to talk to across the room or what you're going to do after the event, checking in with your office, your kids, whatever it is. But just tell yourself, if you're taking the time and you're spending the money to network, to try to really be in the moment and really be connected with the person that you're talking to. And I promise it will make a big difference. So those are kind of my general tips. I will give some more at the end, but what I want to do now is, as I said, this is how this is going to work. And we tried this last year. And you learn things from year to year. So this time, I have an actual bell. Because last year, for those of you that were here, I found myself screaming, even though there was a microphone. I hate to break up conversations and break up networking, so what I'm going to have you guys do is answer a series of questions with each other, but this is how this is going to go. When I give you the first question, you're going to break up for 6 minutes with somebody that you don't know. So that may mean getting out of your row, getting out of your group of friends or work colleagues that you came with, and then ask each other the question, and have a discussion, and we're going to come back together, and then there's going to be another question, and we're going to do a few of these. And really, this is going to try to impart the point to you that I was making about how much you can learn in a short time from people by being impactful and asking open-ended questions, and see how quickly you can get to the heart of who people are as a person. So the first question we're going to answer, let me see which one I want to start with. What is the best thing that's happened to you so far this year? So I am timing it, and you'll start to hear my bell, which will get more and more high volume as you do not come back together. So please split up in your first group and answer the question, what is the best thing that happened to you this year? So Let us take a team of volunteers. I would love to hear what you learned about each other. Who is going to volunteer? And for those of you that may not remember from last year, if you don't volunteer, I will volunteer you. So, well, let me pick somebody that didn't talk to me. Yeah.
I just met this woman who is starting a business with people that are going to be making tailored men's jackets with designs and whatever, which is really in style if you are following the African American men. The African American men set the fashions for the men's industry, in case you want to know. They even came up with the Ivy League. So they're really on it. And that's what this woman is doing. Philadelphia is trying to revive the fashion industry. Here's somebody that's doing it.
Good. Okay, so that's great, but you did not answer the question. What was the best thing that happened to you this year?
What was the best thing that happened to me? Oh, the best thing that happened, you mean to me?
That was our question I gave you guys.
Well, the thing that was the best thing that happened to me is we got a rescue cat from Kentucky.
Okay, I love that. And what was the best thing that happened to you this year?
So she totally gave up my side hustle, which led us through the conversation that we had together. But the best thing that happened to me was my lingerie line launching in Soma stores in October 1st.
Super exciting. Thank you. Do we have one more team that wants to share? Yes.
So the best thing that happened to me this year was going to see Hamilton.
Okay.
I'll say that it was really so reaffirming and so beautiful and wonderful and really grounded me in this time of craziness.
Somebody have a microphone?
I'm a little Canadian maple leaf because I'm Canadian, so it really resonated to have that history lesson.
So what she said was the best thing that happened to her was seeing Hamilton and kind of the political nature of that and how it resonated with her as a Canadian. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. And did you want to share as well? You don't look like you want to.
Well, because she was my partner, I shared that the best thing that happened to me was that I went to see Bruce Springsteen on my birthday. And the crazy thing is I bought 2 tickets hoping that I would have somebody who would cough up the $600 to go with me, and nobody would. So I sold it on StubHub for $2,400.
Wow.
And I went out in New York City, had dinner with friends, and had a great night. And the funniest thing is everybody kept saying, you're going to marry the person sitting next to you. And it ended up being a woman, so I posted on Facebook, no luck.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I see other volunteers, but we're going to move on to the next question. I promise I'll call on different people. So the goal now is to set yourself up with somebody different than you talked to for the first question. So the idea is by the end of this to meet a couple new people in the room, okay? So the next question we're going to tackle is, what is your favorite holiday tradition? Since we have the holidays coming up, and feel free to let it encompass either Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever it is that you celebrate, any holiday tradition that you want to share with somebody, let's hear about it. So go ahead and partner with somebody else and have a good discussion. So let's hear it. Who's volunteering? Let's hear about your holiday traditions. Who would like to share? Yes.
And I'm an artist here and in Florida, and my absolute favorite holiday is Thanksgiving because it's the time that we all can share and give. And I remember as a child growing up in Washington, D.C., and we always made it a practice to include international students. And so our small little life just became the world when we were sharing at Thanksgiving. And I've never been able to give and be so intimate with people as I can and did when I was a child. So
That's
awesome
nice.
time. Awesome.
Wonderful. I love that. And what about your partner?
Hi everyone, I'm Bo and this is Emily. So I'm actually from Thailand. And in Thailand in April, where it's like hot and like 120 degrees, people throw water at each other. It's called Songkran Day, and it's like a family-long Thai holidays that people can get together. So similar to Thanksgiving, except you throw water at each other. And so Emily, you want to talk about it?
I wanted to introduce hers because it's so much better. Throwing water on people. My favorite holiday is also Thanksgiving, and it's because I was born right around Thanksgiving, and my mom had her big turkey dinner from her parents at the hospital.
Oh my gosh. Well, I love that. You learn something new every day. I love the throwing water at each other. I've never heard that in my life. That's so cool. Let's take one more person. Margie.
Well, we had a great talk.
Can everyone hear?
Can everybody hear me? I talk really loudly. My favorite is actually Thanksgiving Friday, but not for the reason that you think. Because our families, thank you, because our families are so blended, we have our Thanksgiving on Friday after Thanksgiving. We have many children who have different sets of parents. We have grown children who are married who really need to establish their own Thanksgiving traditions. So several years ago, we started having Thanksgiving Friday. And we have all of our family, extended family, cousins, sister cousins, everyone comes to Thanksgiving Friday. We have a huge football game and during Thanksgiving Friday, and then we have a bonfire. And because we're so fortunate that many of our children, I have 3 sisters, there are 4 of us, many of our children play instruments and sing. We usually have sing-alongs and roast marshmallows and do the whole thing at night. So
I know, I'm thinking like this, how do we get in on this?
It's actually in Nashville, Tennessee, out at my sister's horse farm in Lebanon. So, excuse me, not Lebanon. Anyway, in Fairview, Tennessee. So we'll be there Friday after Thanksgiving. Come on down. You know, I'm Southern, so y'all come back now. You know, come see us.
I love it. Thank you, Margie. I love it. All right, I love those traditions. And yeah, I think we all want to come to your Friday Thanksgiving. So we're going to do the last question, and then I'm going to give you some tips for kind of not only introductions, but for the remainder of the day here, especially our networking reception and how to navigate that and how you can follow through and, you know, make some great connections. So I'm trying to see which one I want to pick because I have a list of so many questions. What's going to be the best one to end with here? So here it is. What is a personal goal that you met this year? And personal is the key word here, because I think, you know, a lot of us here are business women, business owners, you know, or corporate, nonprofit, and we're always looking at, you know, what did we do with our business? You know, did we grow? Did we scale our business? Did we make the money we wanted to? Did we meet our next business goal? And, you know, what we accomplish personally becomes in the background, or maybe something we don't really consider at all. So I'd really like you to spend this time, again, with somebody new and discuss what is a personal goal not related to work or business that you made this year, that you met this year. Thank you. So our question was, what is a personal goal? And I will say, one of the women here who came up to me, she first told me her business goal, and then I said, that's great, but what was the personal goal that you met? So let's hear a few of your personal goals. Who would like to share? Yes. If you don't have a microphone, oh, you do have a microphone, okay.
So my personal goal is that I got to go to my son's wedding this year. And the thing that makes it so special is that in February of 2017, I was diagnosed with leukemia. And for many months, I was not allowed out of the house.
Right.
You know, I have to be careful about germs.
Yep.
And I was actually able to fly, which was tremendous because I'm not allowed to go on buses. And once we get into cold and flu season, like even coming into an event like this is going to be hard for me to do. But I actually got to his wedding. And honestly, when I was diagnosed and I was so sick, I thought I was going to die. So getting to his wedding was a huge goal met. So that's my
wonderful.
personal goal.
Congratulations. Sandy?
So my personal goal is I travel so much for business, and I wanted to include my family. So this year, I got to take my son, who was a freshman in high school. Keep that in mind. He was willing to go just with mom because dad couldn't come. We went to see his heritage, which was Ireland and England.
Very nice.
10 days with your 15-year-old son, and it was a blessing. Another one was my husband. I couldn't get into Barcelona to speak, so we ended up like, screw it. Well, I didn't say screw it, but we won't say that here. And we ended up spending 5 days without work, without kids in Paris.
Amazing. Wow. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. So I can see more hands up, and I want to hear all your stories, but I also know that we have about 5 minutes left, and I want to make sure I can give you some tips, some useful takeaways. Because a lot of times we come to events like this, and we hear all kinds of good information, and then it's like, what's next? So the first thing is, besides the great questions that we're talking about today and asking all those open-ended questions that I mentioned earlier and being really cognizant of that, is there's a book called How to Be a Power Connector, and there's 3 key questions that were mentioned in this book that I want to let all of you know about that could be the best 3 questions that you ask when you're networking with people. The first is, how can I help you? Because as most of us in the room probably already realize, networking is about giving and serving and how you can help people and not as much about you. So asking people how you can help them, and it's a very general, open-ended question, and it lends them to be able to really think about, what it is that they need that you can help with. The next question is, do you have other ideas for me? So if you tell people about what you're doing, your challenges, your struggles, are you trying to hire? Are you trying to scale? Do you need an exit strategy? Are you looking for an intern? Whatever it may be, do you have any other ideas for me? And the last one would be, who else should I talk to? So whether that's who else should I talk to in the room, or is there somebody else in your network you can connect me to that might be helpful given what I've told you about my goals and what I do, who else can I talk to? So try to keep those 3 questions in mind. And I just want to close by giving you guys some general networking tips that hopefully some of which will lend itself to our networking reception later. So the first thing is, I think that, where a lot of people fail with networking is not making it a habit. So just like anything else, and I think last year I used exercise, and I'll use that again because a lot of you know I box and I love it. So I think you have to make things a habit to make changes. And sometimes we get very busy, and then we think about networking is going to fall by the wayside because I'm too busy to go out and meet people. But especially if people mention social media and technology, there's so many ways that you can meet people. So I think the best thing you can do for yourself is make it a priority on your schedule. If you tell yourself twice a month I'm going to go to an event, once a week I'm going to go to an event, twice a month I'm going to do a Zoom call with somebody new in my network, once a month I'm going to connect with somebody on LinkedIn I haven't talked to. Whatever that is for you, whatever you're able to fit in your calendar, make it a habit and make it non-negotiable. And also try to keep track of people's milestones. That's really important to people, and it can really help build personal connection. Things like birthdays, promotions, weddings, all the stuff that is important to people in their lives, whether that's work goals or personal milestones. Be there for people. Also in the good and the bad. When somebody loses a parent or gets leukemia or whatever it is, be there for people. It really makes a difference. Even if it's somebody that you feel like is more of a networking work colleague and not somebody that's a personal friend, it will really be impactful and meaningful to be there for people. Whether it's in their time of happiness or their time of need. Make sure that you really kind of are mindful of the fact that there's a lot of things you're already doing that are networking. So there's probably at least some of you in the room that think, I don't have time to network, or I'm not networking, or I need to network more. But there's already so many things that you're doing. I'm sure so many people in the room are involved with a parents group, or their kids are on a little league team, or they're in a running club, they go to a gym. You are involved with your religious institution. Maybe you're in the sisterhood of your synagogue. There's so many opportunities to meet people, and think about whether you're taking advantage of those. Because if you're not, those are people that you see on a regular basis that could really be impactful in growing your network and, helping you meet your personal and business goals. Be selective with what you attend. So, I talked to somebody at the break that was, I'm trying to remember who it was, that was saying, they haven't been networking. I think it was you, Sandy, and you said you've been 4 things this week, maybe, right? Yeah. Not that there's a problem with that, but that's not a schedule that's maintainable for most people with running a business. So you really have to think about who your target audience is, who you're trying to meet, and while there's a lot of things that sound fun, it's about being in the room with the right people at the right time, who you're going to be able to impact as far as your audience for what you do. Force yourself to mingle with people you don't know. So especially at a place like this, hopefully the exercise we did, I love getting people out of their seats, out of their comfort zones, and getting people to really connect with people that they didn't know before they got here. But a lot of us go to events and, if you're sponsoring the event and you've come with several work colleagues or you see a friend in the room that you haven't seen, it's so easy to just spend, 15, 20 minutes talking to them and catching up and, sitting with your colleagues at a luncheon event and not necessarily meeting anybody new. So really tell yourself, if you're going to spend the time networking, when we go to this lunch today, when we go to the networking reception, your homework assignment is to meet 1 or 2 new people, not just to meet them, because then the next thing is that over 90% of people don't follow up. So please think about that as you make these great connections today, as you've learned things about people that are going to be memorable and impactful, and personal that we shared today. Make sure that you're following up with people. It's not all about business. It's really about making it personal. And make sure that you're trying to expand your network outside of your industry. And I want to add one personal note. I see that I'm getting a hook here. I want to just make sure you understand that I'm speaking from personal experience. So I know some of you in the room know my story, and I'll say it very quickly. I was a litigator for 12 years. I had a near-death accident. I had no plans to be an entrepreneur, no idea how to run a business, no network outside of the legal industry, and here I am. So it can happen. The only way I've been able to grow my businesses is through building a big network, and it can happen for all of you as well. So I wish you luck in your journey.